It's somehow really appropriate that our opening video is of 12 meters because John Marshall and Margherita Bottini Marshall, who are with us today, standing patiently by in Newport, Rhode Island, will be joining us for a minute. Our special guests on today's show, number 883. Yeah, Jody Shields, we were late by a minute. We were going through the slides with John and Margherita to be sure we were well coordinated. Fog Machine, Lance Burke, here in San Francisco. Welcome to you, sir. It's a nice day in Newport. John and Margherita tell me it's also a nice day here in San Francisco. Jody Shields, good morning. Yeah, we are, but we got to talk, Jody. I know you called. We've got an interesting plan, Julia, that Jody and I and Magnus and Richard Gladwell are cooking up. I got to tell Jody about it. Peter Stevenson down in Sydney, Racing Laser States starts, I think he means, at Wanji Wanji this weekend. That's up north of Sydney, of course. Alan Long has made it back to Texas despite the flight challenges here in the States. Rick Bannerow in Connecticut. Good day, Fozy. One and all. There's the tracker. Hello, everyone. That's Ed Worley, I believe. Gordon Smith in Denmark. Peter Taylor in New York City. Greg Phillips on the Gold Coast of Oz. And everybody else, welcome to this show. I'm your host, Tom Eamon. Co-host, of course, is Julia Vedekint, the Commodore of the Beach Street Yacht Club, and my landlady. So we always have to be nice to her, right, Julia?
Well, of course.
She'll kick me out of Studio B here, and we won't have this nice setup to bring you this show every Tuesday and Friday, as we are wont to do.
Yes.
Julia, let's get to the starting line for today's show, 883. Happy Friday and happy Eve. Tomorrow is Republic Day in what great Southern Hemisphere sailing nation? And it's a great sailing nation. And tonight's the big party on the eve of their Republic Day. We'll get to that. Bravo Zulu to the Australian sailors and the Club of the Year, named, I believe, at a gala celebration last night in Australia. And also Australian Sailing has named the Hall of Fame inductees for the class of 2025, a great group, three sailors, great sailors. Our guests, as we said, Margherita and John Marshall. They're standing by at their home in Newport, Rhode Island. Margherita originally from Italy. She's been back and forth to the States for many, many years. I've known them both since, I think, 1980-ish. 80?
Sounds good
Something
to me.
Like that. But they'll be joining us live via Zoom, of course. We had a nice tech check with them. John Emmett, after John and Margherita, the Coaching Corner, follow-up to a Tuesday's terrific show with John and Jazz Turner about parasailing. Alistair Murray has submitted another awesome Aussie anecdote from Albert Park Lake in Melbourne. It's a cute one. Last leg today is another Sail GP feature and a video about the 5 standout moments that shaped this 2025 season. Ted Ryman in Cape Town. John Collings, good morning from Melbourne. Speaking of Melbourne, Australia, as is Chris Fury, whose wife is the Vice Commodore at the Sandringham Yacht Club. Clayton Embley, thank you for your submissions to the show. Sitting in the back of a police car, enjoying a police car. I hope you're not under arrest, Clayton. Gordon Smith, replying, okay, well, on the bond, they're talking about the bond markets. I haven't been watching the markets this morning, Julia. Too busy. Let's carry on here. Day in History, Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, and of course, our fantastic Fozy. We start with a thank you, a sincere, heartfelt thanks to John, to Jazz. Donnie Peace was under the weather, couldn't make it as our third member of this elite panel on parasailing, but it was a great show by all accounts. Thank you for your many kind comments, everybody, everywhere. And did we have a lot of views?
Yes.
Already. It was
absolutely.
Very nice. Andy Cox checking in from the Royal Bermuda. Yeah, well, I don't know if he's at the yacht club, but from Bermuda. Andy, nice to see you on again. And speaking of John and Jazz, no, they're not an item, at least not that I'm aware. And if they are, it's none of our business, Julia.
Absolutely right.
That was at the World Sailing Awards Gala, and the two of them lit up the place, as did others from reports I've had from others who were there, as you can imagine, Julia. Nice affair. Congratulations. And thanks again, John and Jazz, for your session on our Tuesday show, live.
It was especially good.
It was especially good, wasn't it? Show note, Julia, your favorite sailor,
Yes.
Paul Chiardini, will be on with part 2. We had him on here a week ago, and then we got interrupted. Only the third time in almost 900 shows that we lost the internet, and he got cut off. So we called that Podcastus Interruptus, right?
Right.
Podcast. I thought that'd get a smile, at least from Marshall, who's pretty smart. Podcastus Interruptus. Karen will be back with us. Paul's rejoining for part 2 of that, and we were really just getting into it about his views on the sport and on the America's Cup. A week from today, Julia, on Friday the 21st, part 2, normal time. And then the following Tuesday the 25th, our Thanksgiving week, T. Hutch will be on. Terry's joining us, and we'll talk about his latest thoughts on the America's Cup and beyond. Julia, what are we celebrating today?
Well, I don't know.
Do you recognize the flag?
Brazil.
It is Brazil. You are absolutely right. And today is Republic Day in Brazil. And why do we celebrate that? Well, it's a great sailing nation, first of all. Republic Day, and people don't really know a lot about this because it happened almost, it was very quiet when it happened, but they overthrew the monarchy. People don't, a lot of us, I didn't know that Brazil had a monarchy for quite a while after they threw off Spain. But Republic Day in Brazil marks the end of the monarchy and the start of the republic. This change happened in 1889. So just 38 years after AC0, after the first America's Cup. The shift from empire to republic wasn't violent. Marshal Deodoro de Fonseca, a military leader, led it, and he and his supporters removed Emperor Dom Pedro II from power with little resistance. The decision to become a republic aimed to modernize the country. It ended the long reign of the Brazilian Empire, which had been established in the early 1800s. On this day, Brazil said goodbye to kings and queens and embraced a new government. The change was quick and peaceful, surprising many. And of course, that country is well known as one of the true yachting powers, yacht racing powers in the world, has been for many, many years, back to Fins, Stars, Olympics, and much more, including now Sail GP. And on the 14th of July this year, Julia,
Yes.
your second favorite Sail GP sailor,
Yes.
after the Spanish skipper.
Oh, is he going?
Oh, Martina Grail, though, she won the first Sail GP race skippered. She's the first female skipper, but she won the first race by a female skipper in New York, in New York City, on the 14th of July, which we celebrated on this show. Speaking of celebrations, let's get into it here with Bravo Zulu at the top of the show. Well done in praise of performance. To the Sailors of the Year Down Under in Australia, they were named today in a press release. I assume this happened last night. The Mayo and Thompson and Royal Freshwater Bay were the big winners at the Australian Sailing Awards, which I, again, believe were last night. I'm not 100% sure, but Female Sailor of the Year, and we featured on this show any number of times, Zoe Thompson from the Royal Freshie. Yeah, out in WA, out in Fremantle. She is top-notch, especially in the ILCA class, the ILCA 6. She had a standout season in 2025, claiming her first overall international win at the Sailing Grand Slam Regatta in Palma. Thompson's 2025 season highlights included a win at Sail Melbourne, 12th at the World Championships, and 7th at the Long Beach Olympic Classes Regatta, the OCR, on the 2028 Olympic waters. It was Thompson's first female sailor of the year, and she reflected on what made the difference in her most consistent season yet. Quote, "It's just all the lessons you reflect on after the Olympics and the process it took to get there. We also got a new coach, this year who is very high performance driven and is behind a really great culture we're building within the Australian sailing team." Bravo, Zulu, Zoe. Male Sailor of the Year, we've also featured, I've met him before, don't know him well, of course, but James Mayo from the Royal Sydney and also the Royal Prince Edward. He won the Etchells World, among other things, but he beat out an extremely strong field to claim the 2025 title, largely driven by, this is the field of others vying to be Male Sailor of the Year. Mm-hmm. His team Magpie won their second consecutive Etchells World Championship in January. He skippered Master Lock Comanche to Audi Center Sydney Blue Water point score victories and was aboard Rainbow when it came third at the J Class World Championships. Quite a year. It was the team results that meant the most to Mayo this season. Quote, one of the proudest moments for me was crossing the finish line at the Etchells Worlds, and I had tears of joy for his teammate, Graham Taylor, better known as GT, and not because he drinks gin and tonics, I don't suppose, but who who had just won his first world title. I was privileged enough to win one back in 1999, and we had 2 seconds together by very narrow margins, so to see him win, that was incredible. Congratulations to all three of them.
Mm-hmm.
And the club of the year, and I'm not exactly sure why, except maybe, Julia, it's because we featured Royal Freshwater Bay on this show probably as much as any club in Australia. I have to go back and check. The CYCA manages to get featured on here a lot, as does your favorite Australian club.
Mm-hmm. Royal Prince Alfred.
The Royal Prince Alfred. And the Commodore of RPA is also watching as well. Welcome to all of you down under. Congratulations to the winners. But wait, there's more.
Aha.
Hall of Fame inductees have been announced for the class of 2025 for Australian sailing. And of course, our longtime friend Glenn Ashby, super multi-hull sailor and more. Bendigo is a town, I believe, in Victoria. Correct me if I'm wrong in the chat. Bendigo's Ashby is a 17-time world champion across several multi-hull disciplines, an Olympic silver medalist, America's Cup winning skipper, and most recently set a world, remember that, Julia? The world land speed sailing record that we covered. After he left the America's Cup, he's still with ETNZ, but he left the America's Cup and went to set this record. 224 kilometers per hour, showcasing the same innovation and courage that have defined his career. Quote, it's a real pleasure and honor to receive the induction into the Australian Sailing Hall of Fame, said Ashby at the announcement. Over my career, I have had the pleasure and good fortune of sailing alongside and competing against some of Australia's and the world's finest. Whilst in some ways this signals the end of an era, for me, it also opens the doors to new and exciting challenges on and off the water into La Futura, into the future. So we'll see some more about that. But the other two who were inducted, Nathan and Goobs, Nathan Outeridge and Ian Jensen, neighbors up in Wangi, longtime friends and neighbors of course, our very own Jody Shields. Nathan and Ian grew up on the waters of Wangi in New South Wales, of course. Together, they won the Flying 11 National Championship 25 years ago.
Yeah,
with their friendship and shared passion for the sport, laying the foundation for a lifelong sailing partnership. Their partnership in the 49er class began in 2009, and they would go on to win four world championship medals in as many years, gold in 09, silver in 10, and back-to-back titles again in 11 and 12. At the 2012 London Games on the waters off Weymouth, they converted that dominance into Olympic gold. Outeridge and Jensen took the lead after the third race and never looked back, securing the gold medal before the medal race. What a great format that is. Mm-hmm. For their efforts, they won Australian Sailing's Male Sailor of the Year award that year. Following London, they turned their attention to Artemis Racing and yada, yada, yada. At the Rio Games, they added a silver medal to their collection, beaten by New Zealand training partners and rivals, of course. Bravo Zulu to them, bravo Zulu to the Aussies, and to that fabulous sailing nation. Speaking of Australia, Peter Rechenberg is checking in from Geelong. Britton Ward, one of the most... Britty Ward.
Yes.
Nice to see Britton. He probably wants to see if he can get any secrets from John Marshall. Britton Ward, the president of Far Yacht Design now. He's coming on the show too, Julia.
Yes, you said that.
He's agreed to come on. One of the most beautiful clubs in the world for sure, Royal Freshwater Bay Yacht Club. Andrew, another Aussie on here, Dolly DeVola. James was also Team of the Year with Magpie Etchells team. Yeah, I saw that. Thank you, Dolly, for that. And for your submissions. Dolly's made a couple submissions to this show as well, Julia.
Mm-hmm.
And back and forth about spelling difference between Portuguese and let's leave that to our Latin expert, Margherita Marshall, who's on here today. Let's welcome to the show officially from Newport, Rhode Island, America's Cup veterans, icons. Margherita, a superb photographer and reporter of all things yacht racing and beyond, and her husband, John Marshall, who's been doing the Cup since the 70s, won it a bunch of times, and is one of the smartest people I've ever either done the Cup with or against, and we've done both. Welcome to you.
Yes.
Welcome to you both.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you to having us.
We've been talking, Margherita, about this for a long time, getting the two of you on the show. How did you finally agree to do it? Is this because of Bagnoli and Naples and the America's Cup? Or did I badger you so much, or did somebody else? Did Commodore Harrington whisper to you at a dinner not too long ago and say, hey, you ought to go on Eamon's show. It's fun.
It was time, we'll say. It was time.
Yeah, that's good.
John, what have you been up to? Haven't seen you in a long time, I guess, since you were inducted into the U.S. Sailing Hall of Fame. You're a member of the America's Cup Hall of Fame, but you were inducted out here in SoCal a couple of years ago into the U.S. Sailing Hall of Fame, were you not?
Yes, indeed, and very proud of that. What I've been doing since then is helping Margherita restore an old house and a fair amount of bicycling. I did some competitive cycling in the master's class, the older person's class, for a while, and skiing, and generally having a little bit less interest in the America's Cup than I used to, frankly.
And
We'll talk more about
why is that? Do you want to say right off the top? What is it? I know Margherita, I see her comments on Facebook and here on the show. She seems a little less interested too. Why is that?
Well, you showed some pictures earlier of great sailing in 12 meters and IACC boats. One of the things that made that great for everybody, the sailors and the fans, was you had strong young people, young men and young women, prominently racing relatively small boats in relatively difficult conditions. There was an element of heroism there, and I think a real appreciation of young athletes. The recent America's Cups in these boats put all the emphasis on the technology. There's emphasis, of course, on a better crew, but you never see them. They're buried in the boat.
We call that whack-a-mole sailing. The heads come up and go down and come up. Margherita, thanks, John. And Margherita, what's your interest in the Cup like these days?
Oh, I'm very, very interested. I don't think I stopped to be interested, but since I'm not anymore a journalist, I don't write a lot about. Maybe I know much more because I'm not a journalist anymore. So everybody tell me gossip. So I heard every day thousands of gossip from Italy, from America, from France. I could write an article every day, but I cannot because now I'm a friend.
What was the first Cup that you covered, Margherita?
With my body there was 83.
Well, 83. So I guess that's when we probably met. John, I remember you in 80. You were with Dennis in 80.
Yes, indeed.
And I haven't told this story ever before on the show. It's very quick. I'll tell the story, and John probably doesn't remember. I was executive director of the U.S. Yacht Racing Union. I had a little office at Goat Island. Mm-hmm. And Tom Blackaller and Coleus and that crew came over one day to talk about rules, and they weren't very good about the racing rules. They were apparently having problems with John and Tom Whidden and Dennis and his team because they were much, much better with the rules. So that happened, and everybody in Newport could see boats going in and out of Goat Island, out from the city front Newport, from the bases, team bases over and back. And the next day I got a call, my secretary got a call and saying, Dennis Connor is on his way. And the secretary ran in the room. Tom, Dennis is on his way over here. I said, in fact, he might be arriving right now. And I looked down, John, out of my office at Goat Island. I had that corner office in the southeast corner. And there you guys were arriving on a rib. You, Dennis, Tom Whidden, I don't know, Billy Trink. I don't know who else was with you, but they just showed up. Came up into my office. I had a big round kind of a meeting table. And very carefully, John and Tom Whidden, Dennis sat on the couch in the back and just kind of watched.
Right.
They cleared the table, all the papers off my desk, very carefully, set them on put them on a side chair, John, and pulled the chairs up. And John produced a little wooden red model with a boom stuck to it with a nail, and a white model with a boom stuck to it, which was ostensibly Australia too, and proceeded to argue with his teammates about racing rules and what happens in this situation, because of course they're talking about tactically what's best given a certain rule. And I just sat back and was astonished. These heroes of mine, these icons of the modern America's Cup, are in my office.
Yes.
And I'm just sitting there dumbfounded. John is arguing with Dennis and with Tom Whidden. And John, who I've since found out because we did a couple of cups together, is the smartest guy in the cup that I'd ever met. And you know, he went to Harvard, he went to Rockefeller University. He's a true rocket scientist.
Yeah.
And he's arguing with these guys. And I didn't say a thing. And finally, Dennis from the back of the room on the couch, he said, "Tom, what do you think?" And I said, But I was a bit of a rules expert, and I was okay. I said, "No, I agree with John. John had made this whole presentation." And that was it. They stood up and walked out. It was just, you remember that? Do you have any recollection of that, John?
Well, to be honest, I don't remember that specific day, but I do remember something from early days in racing 12 meters and later. That is how little we knew and how much there was to learn. All of us. I sailed the first America's Cup season in Intrepid in her third season. And halfway through the summer of racing, I thought, I don't really understand what's going on here. And followed up that sailing in Enterprise, and then with Dennis and Freedom, in a nearly perfect campaign. And I thought, well, I'm beginning vaguely to get it.
Rules.
There's something about needing to gain some maturity in whatever you're doing. And, frankly, I was a late bloomer in catching on.
Well, as I say, and not to blow smoke up your skirt, but in the 88 campaign, John actually gets the credit or the blame for hiring me, because he's the first, after we lost, I was with New York. And Malin, I didn't know very well, but Malin, Dennis, and John now have to run a defense, and they have to put a team together to run the defense. And I got the call from John. I knew him, but not well. And he said, "Hey, are you interested in coming to San Diego and helping us?" It was that simple. It was that broad a question. Would you be interested? And of course, I was by then out of a job because America 2 had shut down. We had lost. These guys had won. The next cup was going to be in San Diego. And I said yes. And then I heard from Malin shortly thereafter, "We'll get on a plane, come out here," and met with Malin. And then John, the deal I cut with Malin, John said, "Oh, that's too rich a deal. We can't afford that." And he cut me back to a small, Margherita, he cut me back to a smaller salary. But it was a great experience. And I went, Leslie and I moved to San Diego. And then John and I, of course, were running the legal battle because of the Michael Fay Big Boat challenge.
Right.
And we ended up in court and losing because the judge said, "Well, go sail your silly sailboat race and then come back if there's any questions after that. But you're going to have to," we were asserting that we didn't have to defend against them. It wasn't a proper challenge. We lost that. And then after the cup, we lost, and then won at the appellate level and at the state court of appeals, the final level, after 88. So John and I spent a lot of time back and forth to New York in conference rooms, on the phone with the lawyers. And it was, we spent Thanksgiving together at Fred Fry's house the day that we got the day after we got that bad court decision. That was the worst day of my America's Cup career, I thought, John.
Well, that whole event was sort of a bad event for the America's Cup, but a really necessary step to emphasize the balance between the challenger and the defender, the necessity of coming to a mutual agreement, and the tough penalty if you can't, because I'm sure Michael Fay felt a pretty big penalty when he finally lost. And from Dennis's point of view, it was an event he never wanted to sail because it would be technology dominated.
Mm. 2 catamarans that you designed, led the design team, one with a wing, one with a soft sail. Which was the better of those 2 boats?
The excuse me of having prejudged this, but I followed the so-called Little America's Cup, sailed in 18-foot Class C catamarans for quite a few years. And when they developed wing sails, it was a dramatic breakthrough. So I had a strong conviction that to make a boat that would be a catamaran, that would be very fast in light wind and not vulnerable to getting stuck in the water, as we've seen multi-hulls do in very light wind, and at the same time could be sailed in a fresh breeze if necessary. The wing fundamentally is more adjustable to a broader range of wind conditions, and it's more powerful, period, in many conditions. So I didn't think there was much question. But Dennis has never been a great fan of technology, and he certainly always wants a second opinion. We needed a tune-up boat for sure. So the decision was we built 2 identical platforms, 2 identical catamarans, fit one out with the wing, and the group of us who really were enthusiastic about that were generally called the wing nuts. And Dennis, Billy Trinkle, a number of guys who are really, really great sailors, did everything in the world they could to develop the soft sail rig, with the result that both boats ended up very, very fast. But you asked the question, which was faster? Dennis said, look, we've got to resolve this with a real sail-off, and I'll sail the soft rig. Who do you think could sail the hard rig? And I said, well, Duncan McLean has won the Little America's Cup. He's key part of our design team for the wing. He's here. Probably he could sail a boat. They sailed, I believe it was 13 consecutive races, but in any case, a large number of races. And the wing boat won every single race.
Exactly.
And if you beat Dennis Conner 12 or 13 races in a row,
Not bad.
you've got to be fast because he's good.
Yeah, and about in the same era, same period of time, you'd sent me, or Malin had, actually Dennis, sent me up to Long Beach, said, I don't know about this light air venue here in San Diego. We ought to go up to Long Beach where there's going to be some breeze, because you had done the facts and the sums, and you knew that either cat was going to be a hell of a lot faster than the big boat in breeze. So it being breezier up in Long Beach, could I go up and secure a venue, which I did. And then you called me up one time. I remember distinctly, we went down to the yacht club and had a cup of tea or something. And you said, Tom, forget about it. Forget about Long Beach. Call them up. I'm really sorry to do this to you, but it's not necessary to go to Long Beach. We are going to be so fast in every condition that we don't have to go to Long Beach. And then Sandy Purdon, who's just checked in, by the way, Commodore Purdon, who was not Commodore at the time, but he was heavily involved. He and others said, we really want to keep this for business purposes, for the benefit of the community and all of our members. Keep it as here in San Diego, if at all possible. And you made that call, I'm sure, consulting with Dennis and others. And I had to go up kind of hat in hand and say, well, sorry, Long Beach, come on down. We'll give you some VIP access, but we're going to run it in San Diego after all. Oh, man, that was an era, John. Margherita, you were there. Let's go to some pictures, because we've got great pictures from Margherita from the past. This is the America's Cup past segment. And John Sangmeister, who's from Long Beach, is on, saying Long Beach would flub it up and lose it to San Pedro. San Pedro, where the Olympics. By the way, they announced, I don't know if you saw that, gang, but they announced the schedule of the Olympic sailing regatta in 2028.
Right.
And confirmed again, sadly, that the boards are going to be off the beach in Long Beach, and the boats are going to be in San Pedro.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Port of LA. We'll see if that happens. But back to the cup and to some photos. We have some superb photos. Most of them are from Margherita. I filled a few in to help tell the story. There's the Artful Life. I don't know who that is on YouTube saying, yay, photos by MB. What a nice comment. And David James making the comment while we're at it. Several J-class yachts still sailing and giving joy. Lots of 12 meters still sailing and giving joy. How many America's Cup multi-hulls? That's a good point, David James. And it's something that John and we've talked about a lot, is that one of the things we should be doing in the Cup is to have boats that have an afterlife.
Right.
So here, this Lori Warner, I guess, is the Artful Life. Hello, Lori. Welcome to you. There is a shot, Margherita, from when?
83, and I was working for Mare Vogue, and we didn't have money for an helicopter, so this was a little airplane with the door open.
Oh,
An airplane, fixed wing.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, Cessna 172 with the door taken off.
Oh, man.
And Margherita in a harness so she wouldn't fall out.
oh, I hope so.
Who's that, Margherita?
This is John on board the tender and using a very, very modern tool on his hand.
The then modern tool.
John,
What
John
kind of
and
calculator is that, John?
Yeah.
Hmm?
What kind of calculator is it?
That's the Hewlett Packard, and it speaks reverse Polish notation.
I can't.
No kidding.
I can't squeeze you
And it's
both.
still the best calculator.
You guys will have to cuddle up when I go to this shot with the two shot of you and then the calculator. But we were saying in the tech check, Julia, how we were told not to use, and teachers were told not to let us use these kinds of, even the simple, forget about reverse Polish, but even the simple basic 1 + 1 = type calculators, because we'd never learned math. And I suppose there was some truth to that. But now kids, of course, are taught to use a calculator because you're going to use it in your work life and beyond.
Right.
What about AI? Should we be teaching kids to use AI or banning it from use in the schools?
Might say that every time that I try to use AI, I get some wrong answer. So for me, not yet. Maybe in the future, but not yet.
John?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I go back to being a school teacher before I became a sailmaker. And working at a blackboard on a math problem is an intimidating environment for a student, and it's a good way to learn to do stuff under pressure.
Yeah.
So you got the answer, obviously, is you got to learn to do both. You got to learn to do math by hand, and you got to learn by calculator. And same, I'm sure,
Make it happen.
to write a thesis without using AI to write it for you. I tell you, it is AI for me. I've told the Fozy on the show any number of times. For me, I like to have the results of a race, and there are some times when I cannot find the results of a regatta because they don't have a little button on the website that you can click and get you the results. And if I ask ChatGPT or one of the other AI, Grok or whatever, it'll come right up with it, which is a huge help. There is no substitute for learning how to think, Clayton Embley says. Steve Adkins says we need to embrace AI. J. Frederick Bland, glad to hear you're doing better health-wise, James. I still use my K&E devil of slide rule. Devil of a slide rule.
I have an historic K&E slide rule in my drawer.
You do.
But to be honest, I haven't used it for a long time.
They're arguing now between the HP calculators and the 12C or the, oh my goodness, we got a bunch of experts on here. Ed Worley, AI should be a tool after the young sailors, young students learn the basics. There was a question put your question back in, would you, Gordon, Ed Worley? Oh, there it is. I found it. Ed is asking, Mr. Marshall, and he's a bit of a Cup historian. He does our Cup history segment for us, our, what do we call that? The challenge, the history challenge. He says, Mr. Marshall, in the 1974 Cup Series, Intrepid almost won the right to defend. Was the gear failure the deciding factor for New York Yacht Club choosing Courageous in 1974? 74?
Well, the 74 season was very, very tight, very close. Intrepid trained on the West Coast during the winter, probably the first America's Cup campaign where a whole extra half year had been devoted to preparation. So when we arrived in Newport, the crew was very, very good. We were fast. That is, the sails were good. The modifications to the boat were successful, and we were ready to go racing. The June trials and the July trials were pretty much a catch-up job for the competitors. But Courageous was an awfully, awfully good boat. And as the season evolved, they got closer and closer to us. And the New York Yacht Club selection committee allowed the series to go to the last possible day. And it blew very hard that day from the east. Big waves off of Newport. Probably the most wind we'd sailed in a 12-meter ever. To the extent that Jerry Driscoll, who was skipper of our boat, and I think Ted Hood on Courageous, didn't really want to engage before the start. We went off the starting line more or less even, but well separated, and thinking we're fortunate not to have broken something. Partway up the first beat, though, the lower running backstay on Intrepid failed, and effectively that's the control for the bend in the lower part of the mast. So the mast started to bend pretty alarmingly, and from then on we were in a kind of a defensive mode to try to keep the rig in the boat. We overstood the windward mark, which wasn't really very smart. Courageous sailed a beautiful race, and they were selected that night.
Ted and Dennis were on Courageous, according to Bill Wingrove. And John Sangmeister, this is a bit off this
Dennis
topic.
Definitely was on Courageous that day.
Sangmeister, John, our super Fozy down in Long Beach, saying that your acceptance speech at your induction to the America's Cup Hall of Fame a few years back was the most gracious, elegant, and eloquent speech I've ever witnessed.
Wow.
How's that for a nice...
Yes.
and Sangmeister doesn't give away bouquets like that.
No, he doesn't. Yeah.
Okay, we're only two slides. Go ahead, John.
No, the induction ceremony was very, very emotional for me. The members of the America's Cup Hall of Fame and the U.S. Sailing, U.S. Hall of Fame, if you will, are extraordinary group of sailors. And I honestly, I knew darn well I wasn't as good a sailor as most of them. So I was very, very honored to be there, maybe more as a generalist, sailing, sail making, small boat and dinghy sailing, keelboat sailing in the Olympics. Not the best in the world at any of them, but I did a lot of it for a long career. And
well, a lot of people on here,
the recognition meant a lot to me.
Well, and I can see you getting emotional to a degree even now, which is nice. A lot of people don't know that John won an Olympic medal.
Aha.
Oh, it's here. Here.
Yeah.
There it is.
There it is. It's a bronze medal.
A medal's a medal.
It is.
One important lesson in the Olympics, third place is a whole lot better than fourth place.
Good.
Hey, we're only 2 slides in and we got a bunch. Let's push on here because there is not a Margherita shot, but one of the famous shots from the 83 Cup. And there's another as you started to overtake them. That is Australia too. And you're on Liberty. And then this famous...
With the staysail note.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's this famous shot, which is the moment that they crossed Liberty on port tack going down that leg. And then this shot, which of course is the finish, Australia 2 winning 4-3 after Liberty, after Dennis and co. were up 3-1. You all were up 3-1. And people don't realize that the Australians came back. You talk about the comeback here in San Francisco in 2013. Julia, you were talking about that the other day.
Right.
That was a big comeback. But in order of magnitude, though, this may have been a bigger comeback, wouldn't you say, guys?
For sure.
That was a huge hill that Australia 2 climbed to get
Yes.
back, especially against Dennis. I mean, it was race-winning Stasel, Steve Gruber says. Bill Wingrove, he says, I still shed a tear whenever I see that finish. Indeed. Well, this was the aftermath. And, of course, being in Newport in those days was a fabulous experience. I'm sure, Margherita, you'll never forget it. I certainly won't. John won't either. There he is, the late, great Ben Lexon. Bob Miller, born Bob Miller, changed his name to Ben Lexon. We won't go into all that. There is the famous winged keel. John, what did you think when you saw that, and how much of it did you really know before you saw it? How much of that design had you worked out?
Well, first of all, I personally largely concentrated on sails and sail trim during that campaign. And let's say the technical team of the United States collectively were way too complacent and too, I won't say unwilling, but just didn't go outside the easy parameters looking for new ideas. The Australian team, on the other hand, I think honestly didn't think they could beat Dennis Conner by working harder or spending more time at it or paying more attention to details, because those are all things that Dennis took to the nth degree. And John Bertrand of Australia 2 was an MIT grad, very, very good technical education, and in a position where he had to lead a program in some new directions. Ben Lexon did an incredible job integrating all of the design elements, and their public relations effort was unfailingly great. But the answer is they outthought us and outperformed us. And at the end of the day, we were lucky to make that a close match. But it was really inspirational in a way, too, because it led to racing at Fremantle, the Royal Perth Yacht Club. In my experience, the greatest series of races, the greatest season of racing ever. And certainly for the sport, a fantastic positive. So, yeah, the day we lost the selection in Newport in '83, I was pretty torn up. And the '87 experience put everything back in perspective, that you could explore new ground, you could catch up with a competitor, because technically they were way ahead of us. We not only didn't know how it worked, we didn't even know how they figured it out. So we had to recreate all of the evaluation process, all of the putting together of tank test, wind tunnels, computational fluid dynamics, and recreate a suite of tools that our competitor had 4 years before we did.
Well, and that's the point. You really didn't have the tools that they had, obviously. That was the big breakthrough, I suppose. Let me go to the comments for a second, then get to some of those pictures from '87. Dolly DeVola down in Australia. A great day to be an Aussie. That is that day in September of '83. Apologies to you Seppos. You Seppos. Artful Life, your friend Margherita. Just as a reminder, Margherita was reporting for the top newspapers in Italy, plus all the major nautical publications. And I think she was beginning to do TV interviews as well. Sangmeister is agreeing with you, John. John Sangmeister saying amen to the wake-up call, the new technology, the going down to win it and try to win it back. John, one more question from Ed Worley. Was the tech that you brought to Stars and Stripes and using SAIC the critical factor in designing the final S&S 87?
Well, SAIC, Science Applications Corporation, was a huge part of the team because they brought a perspective from being in the military aircraft design side of things, DARPA, a lot of contacts outside of those we might easily have made. But the effort was in a lot of really important ways a team effort. And right to start with, I'm not a yacht designer, so it wasn't my design. But we had Britton Chance, David Pedrick, and Bruce Nelson. And keeping those three pointed in the same direction actually turned out to be pretty easy. Once we closed the doors and got to work on how to win, we stopped being competitors. And it was quite brilliant because we had assistance from Boeing, assistance, University of Washington Wind Tunnel, Science Applications, scientists at Science Applications helped put together a velocity prediction program that became really a model for the future. All in all, very, very satisfying experience.
And I will note that Bruce Nelson and Dr. Beister, who was then the CEO, owner of SAIC, are both Michigan men.
Now
that I've got a Harvard guy here as our guest, and I got a Stanford lady over here. And John, it's always intimidating to be a simple country boy from Michigan who went to a public school like the University of.
Plays it all the way.
I play it. Gordon Smith in Denmark saying, so understanding this, I think a really good assimilation here. So understanding the skill of the competitors, designers, and engineers was a key part of the competition worth remembering in today's AC competitive environment. Yeah. Alex DeGosta, hello, saying, congratulations, what an amazing couple. Some more photos. The final one from Newport before we get to 87, because I think we all agree that 87 was the pinnacle of our sports pinnacle event. That, of course, the prize giving with Ben Lexon there, John Bertrand over there on the left, Alan Bond just barely above the parapet there in the at Marble House. And what a great job the late great Commodore Bob Stone of New York Yacht Club did that day to kind of bring the sailing world back together after what had been a very difficult summer in Newport. But it was something fantastic. All of us that went down to the most remote capital city in the world in 85, 6, 7, America 2, with whom I was about the first challenger there. You can see us here in, I guess, second place in Margherita. This is the World Championship in 1986.
The year before.
The year before, Feb of 86.
February, and John with Star and Stripe was not there because Dennis didn't want to show this boat, but it was one of the best events of all my life.
Indeed. And John and Dennis turned out.
We also had 2 Italian boats there, so it was really big for Italy.
Well, there were fully 13 challengers and 4 defenders teams. So there were 17 teams. That was the high water mark.
Yes.
For the Cup.
No question.
And it was Alessandra Ponderese's on, by the way, too. I'm not sure I mentioned her earlier, but an old friend of all 3 of ours. I don't know, Julie, if you ever met Alessandra. She is a lawyer, and she was also chairman of the Challenger Commission after me in the 2007 lead up to 07. Very smart Italian lady and good friend of Margherita's and John's as well. Margherita, this is a photo of yours.
Yes.
And this too, I mean, this is what yacht racing still, I think to many, many people, this is not only the pinnacle, but the essence of yacht racing. You've got crew working together on high-tech boats, getting sails up and down, and having to work like an American football team because everything you do on the boat is a play. And it's a coordination, it's a ballet.
in Fremantle was the wind and the light, because it was always in mid-afternoon, and we never had again that kind of wind and that kind of light. So if you are a photographer, you never forget those days out on the water.
Mm.
That's I don't know if that's
You see
Dan.
again,
Yep.
again you have a backlight because of that.
That's I don't know, Danielle Forster, or that may be Gilles Martin Raget, but that's
No,
John.
I think it's mine.
Is it? Did you take that
Yeah.
one as well? It's one of the few
Oh,
shots. It's one of the few times, John, that Kookaburra led. Obviously,
No. Those are the two
U.S. boats.
U.S. boat
Stars and
practicing.
Stripes.
If you see, they
Oh,
are
you're
not
right.
racing
That is your
because
sheet.
the-
I beg your pardon. You're absolutely right.
So,
Those are two USA boats.
because they have the flag, and when they are racing, they don't have the flag.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So is that in Hawaii?
Sorry.
No, is that in Hawaii? Good eye. Thank you. Is that in Hawaii or is that in
No, it
Frio?
was in Fremantle.
Both boats? What about the sewer man? Yeah, okay.
Mhm.
So there is, I put in for you, Margherita. I'm not sure
Yeah.
this is your shot, but I put it
No,
in
I
for
don't know.
you.
This is Italia. It was the second Italian syndicate.
Mhm.
It was mostly run by Gucci, because but it was another important syndicate of Italy, because they had 12 sponsors. And in some way, really, Italy invented the idea of a commercial America's Cup.
Mm.
Nobody talked about that. But in 83,
Mhm.
they had 12 sponsors, 12 partners. And then in 87, again, two challenge with several partners each. They have the same quantity of share. So there was not a name sponsor.
Mhm.
Mm.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
speaking of it, this is the 83 Challenger. I don't know what year this is, but this
Mm.
is Azzurra, obviously, from Yacht Club
Yes,
Costa
this is
Smeralda.
Azzurra. I don't think is in, I think is in Porto Cervo the year after. Azzurra built a lot of boats, 4 boats for the America's Cup. And now this is the launch of the first Azzurra Pesaro. And, you know, the idea of the America's Cup was Gianni Agnelli America's Cup, but he found other 11 friends, they were paying for the challenge. So it was not a fiat, I will say, challenge, but there were a lot of important names, San Pellegrino, Barilla, Iveco. So it was very big in Italy, that America's Cup.
Margherita,
And,
is it true that Agnelli and JFK, John F.
Oh,
Kennedy,
yes.
were friends, and that Kennedy was the one who took him to the 62 Cup or something? So,
yes, he was
and-
invited, and he went with also Cesare Carcano. Cesare Carcano was a motorcycle designer. There was
Moto Guzzi.
Moto Guzzi. He was also a good sailor. He designed a few radical boats, and they were thinking to make a Challenger there, but the New York Yacht Club say, no, you have to learn more about the America's Cup. So they came back in 81.
yeah, the fabulous shot, and that syndicate, great class and style. And of course, we all remember that both Italian, I've said it on the show before, both Italian teams didn't like the
Food.
the food in Frio, so they each set up their own restaurants, competing restaurants, and they were the best 2 restaurants
In town,
in town. They
No
were-
question.
Now, there's another one of your shots, Margherita.
Yes, this is Fremantle. And this was the technical staff who was following the races. And if you see, John is on the left.
Mm.
This is Robert Hopkins on the right.
Robert
this, I think,
Hopkins, Bohop.
Yes, I think this is Malin
Malin Burnham, yes. And
and Jack Stuffen.
This is Malin
yes.
and Jack Sutphin.
Yeah.
Wow, good eyes.
Mhm.
Now, here's the
Oh,
shot that I
well-
thought I was showing you a minute ago. Not your shot, but here's this famous shot during that 87 series in
Yeah,
February of
that
87
that's Kookaburra.
when Kookaburra
Kookaburra.
crossed ahead of Stars and Stripes, I think the one time, maybe.
Might say something is not so sharp.
Not perfect focus. That
It's
was
sharp.
Huh?
The focus is not so
Well,
sharp.
it's not the focus. It's probably the resolution. You sent me
Okay.
those high-res photos, and I grabbed this somewhere off the internet. But
Okay.
Azzurra became super important for all Italians and still is, I think. This
Oh,
is,
yes, absolutely.
yeah. Okay.
But after Azzurra, we were lucky because we had Il Moro. So between Azzurra and Il Moro, in Italy, the America's Cup is something that really people ask about every day.
Yes.
You don't imagine right now that we have the cup in Naples, how many newspaper write little story every day, every day, every day. I don't think there is another country where the America's Cup is so important, more than in New Zealand, for sure.
Well, keep that thought, because I'm going to get to something that the magnificent Magnus Wheatley wrote this morning, and I agree with you, Margherita. I think
Yes.
Julie and I have said any number of times on this show, the best thing that could happen to the Cup is if it were run in Italy. So we're happy that it's being run there,
Yes.
not under the circumstances, but nonetheless.
You
And
know, in Italy, we are just sorry that it was sold in an auction, not won.
And that's the
Yes.
other thing the only thing
Yes.
that's better is if and when, and Italy will win the Cup. Maybe not in our lifetimes, but
Yes.
they will win the Cup. Back to the photos. There's another one of yours, Margherita.
Yes, that was a real helicopter because we had a little more money for that edition, because the Italian had 2 challengers on my magazine, and I was working for the official Italian movie on the America's Cup. So this was a picture from a helicopter.
And there's the big win.
Yeah.
4 in a row, 4-0, which got us back to San Diego.
Yes.
And we should mention that our super Fozy Sandy Purton, who was on here, became later Commodore of San Diego Yacht Club, was the executive director of the Sail America Foundation that was supporting Dennis's effort down in Australia.
Oh.
And he's on here regularly and has become a contributor to our show, and we appreciate that. And then, John, you and I ended up in San Diego together with Malin, with a few others, trying to fend off the big boat.
Mm-hmm.
You know how I call that boat? And that stay with us all the time is the platypus.
The platypus. It is.
Because the shape, he had a strange nose, a strange shaped plane, they have little wings, and in the family was called the platypus.
It was the platypus.
That's nice to remember.
And famously at the press conference, John, Dennis said, "I'm sailing a cat and you're sailing."
No, I didn't say that.
You didn't. I said Dennis said that.
Dennis,
yes. Dennis said a lot of stuff, especially after a couple of good stiff scotches.
Let's go through the margaritas.
A lot of times it was straight up the truth, and people
great,
didn't necessarily want to hear it then.
And great stuff. This margarita was one of yours.
Yes, the wing mast could not stay in the water, so they had a machine that will keep the boat on a side and moving in the boat were moving on the wind. So it was possible to take picture under the structure of the boat. I took it a lot. It looks like, for that time, it looks like a spaceship more than a boat. Now it's normal, but then was very, very unique.
Mm-hmm.
This is a mine again.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic stuff.
Absolutely.
Who's driving Stars and Stripes, the wing sail catamaran?
Tom, I think I've told you that they very rarely let me sail that boat because they were afraid I'd wreck it. And actually, the fun I had in the catamarans in San Diego was partly taking Duncan McLean's Patient Lady wing-sailed Class C catamaran. Margherita crewed for me one day, and we went out and tested the idea of whether an asymmetric or a Jenniker, in effect, would make the boat faster on the downwind legs and light wind? And the answer was yes. And the whole time, Duncan was worrying about the extra compression on the mast and were we going to break his precious wing?
Mhm.
The answer was very possibly.
Yeah, of course.
We didn't break.
We should.
You know what? Something that really helped me in my career was the fact that I was not born a journalist, but I was born as a sailor. I was a competitive sailor, and all those important men were sailing in Italy. So I met John, Tom LeCaller, Paul Caillard, John Bertrand, where they were sailing on Italian boat. So when they see me, I was a friend. I was not a journalist. So that let me have a fantastic career because they didn't consider me the girl that was taking the picture, but I was Margherita. So it has been great, the fact that I could sail.
Well, you were also with Louis Vuitton, with Bruno Troublé in the media center, helping out in how many cups at the media center?
No. I never been. My sister was.
Oh, that's right. It was your sister.
Yes, my sister is here in Newport with us now.
Oh, is she great?
But
is she there in the room? Is she in the house?
Yes, she's
you should drag her in and put her behind you for a minute.
Simona, we're talking about you.
So we can say hi.
So Simona was one of the brunettes.
The brunettes.
Bruno's
girls.
Brunettes.
Yes. In any case, I was working for a media. When I stopped to be a media person, when Vincenzo Onorato called me, yes, would call me to be a media PR relationship person. So I did the 2 campaigns with that, and that was very interesting.
Quickly back on your other point, John, we should note that the race courses in '88 were the deed of gift courses. It was a 39-mile equilateral triangle, same as in 2010 in Valencia. 39-mile equilateral triangle race 1, 20-mile to windward and return. So it was a true downwind leg in light air. So I can understand why you might have thought about the Jenniker, of course. And then the third race, if necessary, was another 39-mile equilateral triangle.
Mm.
You were going to say the whole...
I've lost the thread.
When you think about
I had a different idea in the back of my mind when you showed the picture of several of us in the rubber boat in '87. Mm-hmm. In effect, our technical lead team watching the racing. The guy who really taught me about watching sailboat races to learn to go faster was a Kiwi called Tom Schnackenberg. Mm-hmm. And Tom is legitimately the most brilliant person I've ever met or worked with. Tom was the one who went out day after day in '83 and watched the racing and said, you know, I think the spinnakers on our Australia 2 boat are too big. And he made them smaller and smaller, and they were more stable in the choppy late afternoon sea condition at Newport. And that passing leg when Australia 2 passed Liberty, a big factor of that was they were flying a smaller, more stable spinnaker. Mm. Mm-hmm. You take away some lessons from getting your head kicked.
Right. So after the '88 Cup, then we get involved in '92 and '95, and of course Bill Koch comes in, and you did a partnership for America's Cup Technology before this boat. This is the '95 boat. You did PACT, P-A-C-T, which was a great idea, and it was a consortium to help all of the teams with technology, taking SAIC and the other input that you had from '88. And Dennis was not happy about that initiative. He kind of had to go along with it because Malin told him he had to.
Yep.
Basically, he told him, and it caused friction. And of course, Dennis was mad at me because I had recruited Bill Koch to come in as another defender. he wasn't happy about that. But
And
that,
Bill Koch was unhappy about it because it was making other people stronger. And in the final analysis, I have to say that Jerry Milgram and Bill Koch's program was technically strong enough to win the Cup without what we did. But in any case, it was a new class. The 12-meter era was over. It was a new starting line for everybody. And it was a big deal to get the boat with the right proportions, even putting aside the details of wing design and so on.
and of course, those boats weren't the initial boats are all aircraft carriers, are all wide, and they ended up after 80, 90 boats, they were all the same. In the other corner of the rule, very narrow and quite different boats ultimately.
As with many racing rules in sailing and other sports, there's convergence. Whenever you write down the rule, then people explore the design space, and eventually the smart people get pretty much to the optimum corner. I think, as you know, I chaired the committee to develop the IACC rule. We had 5 prominent designers from 5 different countries on that committee, and France was represented, Great Britain, Australia, and New Zealand. Extraordinary group of people trying to identify potential loopholes, not give them away to the other designers, but eventually all the potential loopholes that the group could see were effectively covered. So the rule was quite durable. The 92 event was the first event, and 2007, the last event at IACC boats?
Yes.
Correct.
That's a long run, and
Valencia was in
Valencia.
And
exactly.
100 boats.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you only have to go back and look at some of the pictures of the racing in those boats to see how compelling that was, how close, how tough. Downwind finishes in boats where you could attack from behind, which is impossible in the new high-speed boats. If you went around the last windward mark 2 boat lengths behind, you were in a pretty strong position to attack and either force an error or have a little bit more speed and win the race. And boy, oh boy, when you saw sailors like Paul Kayard and others on those final runs, your heart goes thump, thump, thump.
Well, and of course, concurrent with that, as the IACC came in and Brian Willis and Peter Gilmore and the other younger sailors who were on the match racing circuit started to really learn the yacht racing rules. And we put umpiring in, which I put that in for the 92 Cup, and Dennis fought me. And finally, you and Tom Whidden told him, he said, this is the future of the sport. We got to let Eamon do this. And we did. And of course, there's been umpiring ever since. And it's not only for match racing, but for team racing and small fleet racing. If you're just joining us, we're gas bagging away here with 2 dear friends about the America's Cup past, present, and future. And we're just gotten to most of the way through the past, not even further than that, but we'll get into the present and future in a moment. John Marshall and Margherita Bottini are with us from Newport, Rhode Island, their home via Zoom, of course. And Jan Chance O'Malley has just put a note in the chat. She said, I recently watched Sail Wars again. John, that super doco, what was that, PBS? Documentary. And Chance O'Malley, do you want to tell the audience, or shall I say who Jan O'Malley
Well, it was a Nova production for PBS, and honestly, I'm not quite sure why we agreed, but we did agree that their photographers and sound people could sit in at all the design meetings. So the result was a pretty good documentation of the give and take among a group of designers and technical people, ultimately leading to the design of Stars and Stripes 87. A little bit embarrassing to me because it becomes pretty obvious there are more competent people in the room, but it's well worth seeing if you're a fan of the sport.
Jan's
And
kindly
it's on YouTube, I think now.
Yeah, she's kindly included a link to it, and everybody's chiming in and saying yes, that's a great documentary. And let's just say who Jan Chance O'Malley is. Of course, the sister and superb sailor in her own right of Britton Chance, the designer. And tell us about Jan's and Britt Chance's dad, Dr. Chance. Did you ever meet? You must have met the dad. You know who he was.
I don't think I did, but I know that he was an outstanding sailor in the 5.5 meter class, a generation before Britain, of course. But all the genetics, let's say, were there for Britain to be brilliant.
And as was Jan, she was a member of in the delegation of representing the U.S. to the IWARU and ISAF with Ding Schoonmaker, Andy Kostanecki. But more importantly, historically, their dad, I think he was Britt Chance Sr., I can't remember but he apparently developed either MRI, some kind of resonance, some kind of imaging, resonance imaging that advanced X-rays beyond what they were and are.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was.
Did he win an Olympic medal in 5.5 meter class?
May have done that as well, and maybe Jan will put that in for us in the chat. That would be good. But we do this. I was just saying we do this every Tuesday and Friday. We're about an hour and 13 minutes into this show, and we've got two superb sailors and friends with us live via Zoom from Newport, Rhode Island. We've gotten now to 95, and this is the famous, John, your boat. You were chairman of this syndicate, the Mermaid. Tell us, and there's one of you.
Well, yes, thanks to the generosity of Roy Lichtenstein, we had this magnificent graphic for the boat.
I'll back it up. There you go.
Inspirational in a way because it captured the idea of young people, the beauty of sailing. Obviously, Roy's appreciation of the beauty of a young woman also, and an added thing, let's say. I didn't know anything about art whatsoever. When one of my customers at the Hinckley Company was an art dealer, and he said I should really try to get a great American artist to do the graphics. And I said, well, I don't know any. He said, well, call this number and talk to. And I did, and it was Roy Lichtenstein's agent, but an Italian who had grown up sailing on the lakes in Italy, was a very experienced sailor, and Leo Castelli. And he was willing to go to Roy and try to explain this project, because when I first met Roy, he was very apologetic. He said, honestly, I don't know anything about sailboats. How am I going to do this? And if my ideas don't look good to you, don't feel like you've insulted me. Let me do some studies. And of course, when he did, we were all blown away. We'd never seen anything like that. And it was great.
It was.
Great experience. And he came out to San Diego and christened the boat. And when he was there, he looked at the boat and he looked at the graphics. He said, you know, there's a mistake here. It's my mistake. I didn't put it on the maquette, on the study that I sent to have the boat painted. The girl needs lipstick. And he got up there with a paintbrush with a little red paint and added the lipstick.
Is that true?
And then he signed the boat.
Terrific.
Roy Lichtenstein scrawl right on the edge of the foredeck.
That's lovely.
That is fabulous.
And the boat now is in a museum.
Yeah, there's a comment here in the chat from another Fozy, Peter Taylor, who's in New York City and a regular contributor. He said, I still see the Mermaid in situ at Storm King Sculpture Park north of New York City.
Yes, it's on the west side of the Hudson River, not far from West Point, and an hour's drive, maybe a little bit more than an hour's drive from Manhattan. And it's several hundred acres dedicated to wonderful, wonderful sculpture. De Souvero, Calder, you name it, the modern sculptures
And
are there.
Clayton Embley is saying that is actually the largest piece of moving art ever created. Okay.
Well, it's part of the joy of campaigns like that is when you learn a little of something you don't know anything about. And it was a great experience. That's all I can say. It was super.
And here is the answer. Jan O'Malley saying, my father was a physical biochemist who did basic research in areas like biomedical optics, MR, magnetic resonance spectroscopy.
Imaging.
Spectroscopy and cellular level enzyme kinetics. And John, he also won an Olympic gold medal in the 5.5
in Helsinki.
Okay.
52.
Oh, that's interesting. Yes.
Well done. Priceless lipstick, Steve Atkins is saying. Okay, so we got the mermaid, and there's another shot of the mermaid from Margherita, and then we go down to Auckland. Russell Coutts whipped us in 95, 150. And we ended up, I was with Dennis's team, we ended up chartering the mermaid from John.
Oh, I remember that.
And then sailed it, and we didn't sail it nearly as well as John's team had been sailing, and we probably would have been better off sticking with Stars and Stripes. But, John, we were going to get beaten by Russell because they had their rig completely different than from anybody else. Their mast was way aft, and they had a much better boat for the conditions, and 150. And, I mean, they toyed with the other challengers, frankly, in 95.
If you remember, it was Snackenberg that designed that sail rig of the New Zealand.
The rig position, yes.
Exactly right. Exactly right. So now
tripping over.
And now we go down into the IACC class still. We go down to Auckland for 2000, and then 03 before the tight five had gone from New Zealand to Switzerland and then took the cup to Valencia. But John, there's your team, Young America, in the 80 Cup in Auckland.
Yeah, and this was a Bruce Farr design and a single designer program, and they did a superb job. The boat was very, very competitive, very, I won't say the best, but was one of the best boats among the challengers for sure. Unfortunately, had a major structural failure right towards the end of the selection series. And it just wasn't possible to get the boat rebuilt and fully competitive. So that was a big, big disappointment. The boat went on, however, to go to Patricia Bertelli and to be the starting point and baseline for the Luna Rossa programs, which, of course, were very, very successful and very powerful. So there's a second life in some of these boats that you don't really anticipate. And this was a good boat. And the graphics, by the way, is what we call the Techno Shark. It's exactly. And the Techno Shark symbolized the idea of the shark as the top-level predator in the ocean, and technology drives the optimization.
Nice.
Evolution is technological then.
Mark Wharton Reed, you'll know, both of you will know Mark Reed, the educational materials you put out with PAC. Your brother did this, in fact, if I remember well, John. The educational materials you put out with PAC 2000 were very instructive. I still have those manuals and worksheets.
Wow.
Well, it's only 25 years ago. I was with Kayard's team, as you know, and we were most afraid of your team. And we got to the finals, Margherita, against your Italians, against with the team that then beat us and then went on to the finals. And it was widely, I think, still is viewed as the best America's Cup series ever in the Challenger or the Defenders trials or in the match. It was just a fabulous, won all 9 races. And we had our 25th anniversary couple weeks ago over at St. Francis Yacht Club for the boat with the green spinnakers.
You know, it was for Italy, was very interesting because the final was between the new Eros, they were, in any case, Luna Rossa, and Paolino. Paolino is still a very, very important sailor for Italia. It's not called Caiardini, it's called Paolino. But was Paolino.
We call him Caiardini.
No.
Paolino.
Yes.
Yes,
Paolino.
Paolino is how Raul Gardini called him, my Paolino.
What did you think? What did you think of him winning the Star Worlds this year, a couple months ago, at age 66?
Yes.
Yeah, it was funny. One of the last dinner at the New York Yacht Club, I was sitting with him, and we were talking about the future of Star. And Paul he asked, "What is in the future? What are the races where there will be the next world?" And he told me, "Okay, you know, in 2007 we go to Naples." And they told me that there is some kind of event early in the summer, but there will be just 2 or 3 boats. We are going in more than 100.
Margherita, Julie always likes to remind us to go back and read the comments. And there is a thread here between the Aussies saying, it might be, this is Dolly DeVola, it might be my Italian heritage coming through. In fact, it's way up above that, so I won't. It's
a great comment, though.
It might be my Italian heritage coming through, but I want to go to Margherita's for dinner. She is a gem. And Jody Shields says, "Yeah, I'll drive." Sounds like a great night.
Oh yeah,
I'm a gem. You know, I'm a good cook.
I know. Margherita, John, I just
She had a good mom.
One last note before we've left San Diego and gone to Auckland, but I remember a coffee table, Margaret. I've told the story. The coffee table that was like it was a piece of art. Actually, it was like a gurney. It had some short legs and wheels on it.
All little
and
inlays.
and the glass table on top
And the wheels.
And the wheels,
4
right?
wheels.
So that coffee table, which was left at our San Diego house after you left San Diego to go back to Europe, I guess, that coffee table went with Leslie and myself back to Michigan, to Germany, to Spain, to Valencia for the 07 Cup, and then it's now back in San Diego. It's made the whole trip. Young America. Now, I put this shot of yours in, Margherita. Well, I put them all in, but this one, I want to compare and contrast this IACC boat with this, the Modern America's Cup boat, and get your thoughts. Because we talked about it at the top of the show. 17, 18 guys and gals on the boat, sails going up and down, orchestrated ballet, American football plays, use the metaphor you want, compared to now it's going to be electric, not even grinders, and whack-a-mole.
What is fantastic, then the protocol is written that the sailor cannot touch any part of the sails. Everything have to be computerized.
Oh, I know.
The only, and John, you remember.
The only physical thing the sailors can do on the boat, one of them is allowed to steer.
And the other push button.
And John remembers.
Well, this is true, but no work.
No work in the physics sense of the word. John and I used to argue with our teams, our sailors, about the simple yacht racing rule, which said everything had to be human.
Yeah.
Manual
labor, and manual in the sense of the physics word of the word. Nothing could be except by way of a spring. There could be no stored energy except by way of a spring or some bungee cord or something. And now, a ridiculous extent. Am I wrong? Everything.
You're not wrong, Tom.
Stored energy. It's absurd. And we've got this whack-a-mole thing going on where you can't even see the sailors.
Yeah.
And that's the wrap up to America's Cup and the segue from America's Cup past to America's Cup present, which we'll talk a little more quickly about. But what's your general impression of the protocol now that we've gotten into that, and America's Cup properties, America's Cup partnership, and what's going to happen in Naples. Why don't I play, you can think about that, and I'll play the video, the introductory video for Naples, and be right back in a couple minutes. Okay, gang. Margherita, let's start with you. Is that going to happen? Is that fantasy or is that reality?
Okay. They are working. The problem is the solution that we'll have next year will be a provisional solution because Bagnoli area has been seriously polluted and need a lot of work. So what they've been dreaming to remake that area for 30 years. So the idea of the America's Cup helped to take some money out that was already there to solve the problem with Bagnoli. Will be not the final solution, they will need more year, but since everything will be floating, they will be camping out next summer and the next summer. One of the problems that Naples has, it doesn't have a yacht harbor. It doesn't have a pleasance harbor. The yacht in Naples are in two of the very famous yacht club, but they are private club. So what locally they hope that in this rebuilding the area in the future, they will have finally a yacht harbor.
Mm. John?
So that...
Yeah, for big yachts.
Yeah, for big yachts.
Visitors and tourists. And
yeah. If you want to visit Naples, you don't stop in Naples now. You go or Capri or Sorrento. So that can be very important for Italy to develop that area.
Will it happen in time?
It will be camping out, like I said. There will be provisional, floating, and not the final one.
Yeah. John?
You know, there's been a discussion already about 29. So, yeah, so we will see 29. Maybe if they keep the 29, will be finished.
Who is going to win? Assuming it's the Kiwis, of course, defending, and it's too bad, as several of the people in the chat have said, too bad that it's not Luna Rossa or Azzurra or Italia or somebody else defending. Who's going to win, assuming we've got the Italians, the Kiwis, maybe the French?
And the British.
Well, and maybe the British. I think
the British, they will be there. I'm
think?
absolutely sure.
Okay,
I
good.
don't know about the French. The Italian, you know that the still is not official because there is a big discussion about the budget cap because the Italian have a big, huge budget, and
They've
the
already
French. Okay,
they've already gone past the budget cap, and
maybe not at that point, but
well, no, they
seriously,
have. I've heard from other sources, in fact, within the team, that Max Serena, the GM of that team, has told Grant Dalton, sorry, we've long since gone over that budget cap of 75 million euros. So
in any case,
John, Margherita, they've changed it now from a budget cap to a salary cap.
okay,
So
we
it
will
only
see.
covers
In any
this.
case, the problem with the problem is not a problem, but nobody really knows about Luna Rossa. Luna Rossa is not anymore owned by Patrizio Bertelli. Luna Rossa is a company on the Prada Group.
Mhm.
And the Prada Group developed with the Luna Rossa the sport clothing that is called Linea Rossa.
Mm.
And that is very important for Prada because they do skis, weather, and shoes. And so Prada is not anymore.
People in sports.
Yes. So Prada is not anymore the tycoon dream. Is commercially important. So and there are a lot of other sponsors. They want to be with Luna Rossa because Luna Rossa is very popular in Italy.
Mm.
So it's very important for them to show well and to be in the market. And so also the public relation is huge. They publish every day new picture, new everything, because that Linea Rossa that you see on the boat is on the clothing, on the shoes. If you go on the Prada shop, you'll find a corner that is the Linea Rossa.
Mm.
So in some way, Patrizio discovered the commercial world before the other did.
Yeah.
Well, as you said, the Italians back in '83, the Brits to a degree, but the Italians really commercialized their America's Cup syndicates even before Dennis did. And that was Azzurra, that was Yacht Club Costa Smeralda. You see up here on this monitor, my next slide, and Terry gave an interview a couple days ago. By the way, Terry's coming on the show a week from Tuesday, and we're looking forward to having Terry T. Hutch on. And this was.
And you should ask him if the asset of American Magic are for sale or not.
Well, I have, and that's the big question: is are the Brits going to buy American Magic? Because although the answer that I'm going to show you some stuff from Magnus and from the Reuters article that came out this morning about the Brits. Ben keeps telling everybody he not only has backing, and we think he does have backing, but he's also got his old boat. He says that, and they're in court. That's it. They're actually in court over the boat and some of the other IP, some of the intellectual property. But let's go back to Terry, and then we'll go to the Brits in a moment. As you all know, American Magic has pulled out, and there's wishful thinking that they'll stay. But American Magic skipper says America's Cup exit was difficult and hints at return after Naples. This was an interview. It wasn't really an interview. Terry gave a statement that they ran as an interview on the stuff.co.nz website here a few days ago. And Terry said, quote, "We'll consider AC 39, not Naples, although 39 could be in Naples, too. We'll consider AC 39 when the time comes and the terms of entry are clear. Our priority is to ensure that any future campaign aligns fully with our principles, capabilities, and long-term strategy." Hutchison also said their withdrawal had the backing of the New York Yacht Club, who headed 25 consecutive Cup wins until Australia ended 132 years of American success with their iconic 1983 victory in Newport. There were also quotes attributed to any representative.
No quotes.
No quotes. Thank you, Julia. To any representative of the famous yachting enterprise, meaning New York Yacht Club, when American Magic confirmed their departure. This is an excerpt from a much longer statement, an article and stuff. Quote, "We take pride in the New York Yacht Club's America's Cup and American Magic's history and legacy in the Cup. This was a difficult decision guided by principle and strategy," Hutchison said. So that is what is the latest from New York until we hear from Terry. And I will ask him, Margherita, about his boats and what's available. And by the way, as well as I've known T. Hutch for a long time, I try not to pester him or anybody else because they're busy. But he actually, through his PR guy, really top-notch PR team that he's got with American Magic and continuing, Graham Harrison is coming. He asked me if Terry could come on the show, so I suspect they've got a message. He's got something he wants to tell us beyond this statement that they gave the stuff. Now, why don't we go to Luna Rossa for a minute, because they gave this, you'll see now, there is this update, the October update from Luna Rossa, and it's a long video. I'm not going to play the whole thing, but I'll give you a taste of it.
What
anyway.
do we do in October? Remind me. You started, no? 1st of October? Not just normal. Yeah. I'm Brendan Jones, and I'm the head of the boat building department. And this month, October, we have been maintaining the chase boat fleet and preparing for the arrival of the big boat. We also received the first shipment of the parts of the big boat.
Margherita, have you seen this video?
Yes, and you can see in those videos, you always seen very well the linea rossa on the back of the shirt, on the boat, because this is advertising for the linea rossa.
Well,
so it's a very, very good marketing. But I think Prada with this, they show how marketing works.
Well, what's interesting, of course, is that what that initial statement was that they're expecting the big boat. This was their end of October report, just a few days old. Well,
the boat is already there.
So the boat is there now. Okay, good.
But there is a gossip.
What's the gossip? Let's hear it.
A gossip, one here.
One here.
And this is one here.
Well done, Margherita.
One here. You know that Tita is supposed to be possible to be one of the helmsmen for the next America's Cup, is doing the Sail GP.
Mm-hmm.
And looks like one here that is put it in front of the decision. You have to decide if you want to stay with Luna Rossa, so have a chance to be on board Luna Rossa, or you want to stay with the Sail GP.
Mm. So you're hearing that he's got to make up his mind
in the next 2 weeks.
Wow, there's a good.
How about Max?
So from one here.
I love it.
One here that if we see Tita on board the boat, the Italian Red Bull boat, in
Sail GP.
the next, there is the last of Sail GP, because he choose the Sail GP. If it's not on board, because he choose Luna Rossa. So we have to wait just 2 weeks.
Mm.
And this is a very good gossip. You don't get those very often.
Well,
yes,
we're going to put you in charge of, if for every show you can give us a one hears, Margherita.
absolutely. Yeah.
That's the best one hears we've heard in a while. Good stuff. Well, this video, and we're between Luna Rossa and the FIV, so they're cooperating. Let's carry on here and talk a little bit more about Bagnoli. What does this slide say? This was a news article today.
Okay. Bagnoli is an area that's been forgotten for many years and has been a problem for Naples for many years. So now the people of Bagnoli, that is not up quarter of Naples, are worried that they are sending them out from that part of the town to make rich people coming with their boats. So there is this little war between the local and the Napoli government, we will say. I think that is normal. If you remember, there were complaints in Valencia, and we had a lot of complaints in Barcelona. So but this is the fact, is that in Italy, every day you have a new article about the America's Cup.
So that's good news.
Yes.
All
yes.
all
For
ink,
the America's Cup is fantastic.
all
news.
ink is ink, good, bad, or otherwise.
Yeah.
So these are the slides. I won't even put them on, but you saw this article. You sent me this article. The headline was what? 100 people in the piazza
Yes.
against the
Hundreds.
America's Cup?
But you know, there were also hundreds on the road in Barcelona. So it's something that is not new.
Well, these were interesting slides. America's Cup. What's Paco? It means a joke?
Yes, a joke.
A joke, and there was a little bit of a mermaid.
Yeah.
So these are all slides in that newspaper article you sent me. So
Yeah,
AC,
but
it's just, you think this is just normal local action, local citizens objecting and trying to maybe get some leverage on the government and use the America's Cup to get leverage.
It's Italian politics, because you know that the America's Cup, it became in Italy very, very politics, because it was supported by the government and by another entity. There is the same entity that's organizing the Winter Olympics. So it's the same entity that sponsor in some way both the event. So it's really, really politically involved.
Okay, well, Dolly DeVola is saying that One Hears with Margherita is a new Sailing Illustrated segment.
Yes.
A regular segment.
Yes.
One Hears by Margherita Bottini Marshall. That would be terrific.
Indeed.
That was pretty good. Let's move on now to the Brits, since we were talking about the Brits. And yes, we hope they're there. We think they'll be there. And I have a One Hears at the end of this that I've actually hinted at before, but Sir Ben Ainslie was in the paper this morning, and this is Magnus the Magnificent, who wrote then, a subsequent blog post came out just before we went to air about this Reuters interview that Sir Ben did, and this is Magnus writing. He's saying, time is tight, but so are the new budget caps. They're really going to be salary caps. And with only 45 days of actually sailing of the AC-75s, in the main with some exceptions, allowed from the 15th of January, there is perhaps no need to panic on the British front, but they need to get a shift on. I guess you need to get going. This is Magnus writing again. Another month or so, as Ben says, 2 to 4 weeks is when he's supposed to be able to announce his backers, probably won't make a vast amount of difference in the overall scheme of things, as long as Nick Holroyd is design chief and his team are well advanced with the adaptations of the ex-Britannia, which we are assured by Ben is in his team's control, and presumably down in Portsmouth now, though you better look into that for us, Margherita. We need a One Hears on Ben's boat, whether it's in Portsmouth.
We have Magnus. Magnus, he knows everything.
Yeah, but he's working for Grant Dalton too, so we don't know about that. So I don't know if there's a lawsuit. They're in court over those assets from the last campaign with Sir Jim Ratcliffe. The Reuters interview, this is Magnus still writing now about the Reuters interview that came out today. The Reuters interview concludes with Ben's view on the now they're calling it a salary cap. See that? Magnus switched to salary cap, which the agency reports, which Reuters reports as 75 million euros. Well, we've heard that all along. Richard Gladwell said that. weeks ago, for AC 38. Quote, in any other development sport where you've got a cap, you're going to push it to the max. This is Ben, a quote from Ben. That's the nature of a technical sport, and the more you can invest in the development, the better, unquote. And in a nutshell, that kind of indicates, Magnus asserts, that Ben has secured the full amount. Again, brilliant news if so, and it's sounding like it's already full steam ahead. Yeah, well, Magnus, you are a Brit, and you are certainly a big supporter of Ben's, and I don't blame you. With 2-year cycles now in place, yeah, right. We'll see about that. Chances increase of yeah, John guffawed the same. With 2-year cycles now in place, chances increase of eventual success. And as a historian of the America's Cup, that's Magnus saying, all I can say is that Britain winning, get this, Margherita, I put this in for you, is that Britain winning is truly the last great momentous story to be told. If Britain wins the Cup, that's the last momentous story to be told in the history of the Cup. Whether it can ever come back to where it all started in cows will take some imagination and government backing. Eek, but never say never, especially where Ben is concerned. That would be the story of stories. So I ask you, the three of you, is the Brit finally winning the Cup the last greatest story?
The last greatest story of the America's Cup?
Yeah, if the Brits finally win.
It will be a great story. If it's the last and most important, I don't know. We have to see how they win. No, we have to see how they win, because something is if you win a Challenger series with 20 boats, and you became the challenger before other 19 boats. If you are the only challenger, maybe it's not so important, because remember.
How many times, John Mark, sorry to punch in there, how many times have we heard, oh, this is the end of the Cup, or this is the last great story of the Cup? 2013 here was going to be the last and greatest and best comeback story in the sport and in all of sport. That's not true. Margherita, I assert, and I ask you both, that if the Italians win the Cup, not if, it was we said earlier in the show, if and when the Italians win the Cup, that will be a much bigger story than the Brits finally winning it. What do you think?
For the media result, for sure.
Exactly.
Well, also from a long period of participation as serious competitors, huge contributions to the sport, to the Cup. To me, aside from my Italian connection,
Whatever. Yeah.
I would rather see them win because they have really earned it over a long time the hard way.
Actually, I absolutely agree with you. I've been cheering for them for the last several Cups.
You like those Latin boys, just admit it. Julia has a thing for Spanish and Latin boys.
But,
What were you going to say, Margherita?
yeah.
I have to say they are not so Latin, because we have Burling now, and we had Paulino before that. And we had Torben Grael. Torben Grael has been huge for Luna Rossa. It's
Yes.
still, and Torben Grael still steer all the Patrizio Bertelli classic boat.
Yeah, but Torben Grail is Latin. Paul Caird's half
Yes,
Latin.
yes.
He's
Yeah,
half
half Latin.
French, so he's half Latin. But yeah,
Yeah.
okay, Peter Burling is not exactly Latin, but okay. Well, there's one more quote here. I was astonished when I read Magnus saying that, but none of us is perfect. I've shown that many times, and indeed on this show. Wow, the Swiss to come back. He quotes Magnus. I've cut over a lot of the stuff he wrote today, but his stuff is always entertaining and fun. And once again, I'll put in a plug for you. If you don't have a subscription to his Rule 69 blog on Substack, you should get one. It's not a princely sum, and he writes well and prolifically, Julie,
Yes.
to use a Stanford word. So he says in conclusion, after Ben is saying, the Swiss might still come back, and I think the Americans still might come back. I don't know what Ben is smoking. Wow, the Swiss to come back wouldn't surprise me. That's Magnus writing. The Aussies, this so-called rumored Australian syndicate. No way. Well, I've been saying that for a while. Magnus have been saying that for a while now. American Magic, I'd love to. He doesn't say they're coming back yet. He says, I'd love to see that. They have so much talent and shine. In conclusion, Magnus writes today, don't believe the naysayers. The Louis Vuitton 38th America's Cup is shaping up to be something special, very special. I think we can probably all agree it's going to be something special. Sure.
Yes.
What's special? Final thoughts to the two of you.
As I told you, I had my plan to save the America's Cup, and this will make a lot of noise around, but I still think it's the only solution to save the America's Cup. If all the club, they want the America's Cup, get together, they take the funny, nice old cup and they bring it back to the court, say, we are very sorry, we cannot fulfill the testament that is the deed of gift. So we give you back the cup and you decide what you want to do, put in a museum, okay. But when they restore this cup, they make another copy. There is the copy that's going around the world now is not the original cup. Okay, and they found the new America's Cup with the rule that they want. There is not a deed of gift. Will be completely commercial, completely technical, completely crazy. So they will save the idea of the America's Cup as it was a testament, and they will have the cup that they want.
Mm. So you think that the current cup, and Dyer Jones knows, and I know because Dyer Jones marked the cup before New York gave the cup to the Aussies. Did you know that?
Yes.
So I'm sure you did. And Dyer, past Commodore of the New York Yacht Club, who was the race committee chair in Newport in '83, did a fabulous job under difficult conditions. He specially marked the cup so nobody else knows where those marks are and would know if anybody ever tried to swap one cup for the other, right?
We don't know if they are there because it was destroyed by a Maori when they got to Auckland.
True.
So it was rebuilt there once.
And Dyer checked the cup after the thing got restored to be sure the marks were still there.
Okay, but few years ago has been restored a Garrard, if you remember. It stayed a Garrard for 2 or 3, 4 months.
Mm-hmm.
So one here.
Yep.
One here that Garrard made a second one, exactly as the same, to save the original one. And since
Recently.
Since this one is going around with not any more guards, like it was a Genova boat show with the Grand Alton son carrying the cup, and with not the too big guard with them, it makes us thinking that maybe the one that they are using for showing to go around in Spain or to go around in Italy will go here. Is not the real one. It's the number 2.
One hears there may be more than just that one.
Yeah, okay, but we know that when it was made in 48, there were 3 of those cups.
In 1848.
1848.
Yes, when it was made, they made 3 of those. So it will be consistent with the history of the cup, the fact there are several cups. Actually, we have at home a lamp. It was one of the Lipton cup.
Yes.
Okay, well, I think Ted Turner's got one of those 1848 cups, right?
Take it easy.
Okay, let's do a one here's on my end, Margherita. You ready for this?
Yes.
Okay, here's a one here's about Ben. You know who this gentleman is? John?
Yes, yes, we know who is the new owner of North Sea.
Correct.
And I think he also owns a Wally yacht.
Well, his name is Peter Dubins. He is the founder and the managing director of Oakley Capital Group. And on their website, they include in various they own a lot of different companies, in fact, in 4 different categories. And Oakley invested in North Sales in 2014. John, you're a past former president of North Sales. You worked there for many years. We're helping the business grow on a global scale by leveraging the heritage of the Sale brand and by diversifying the business. Following a decade of acquisitions supported by Oakley, today the North Sales Group comprises multiple brands, including North Sales, Quantum Sales, Doyle Sales, Southern Spars, Future Fibers, North Windsurfing, North Kiteboarding, Mystic, and others. And that is said to be the new backer of Sir Ben Ainslie and his British America's Cup Challenger
And
of
he's
Record
a
team.
sailor.
And he's
This is
a
important.
sailor.
He's a sailor.
Right. Do you know him? Have you met him?
No,
Well,
not yet.
how about you, since John's a past president of North,
Not yet, she says.
and you're
I agree with you.
yeah, you saw that, Julia, and since you're such a keen investigative reporter and doing a One Here segment now for us, why don't you call him up? And he lives in Chelsea. In fact, I read in the papers today, his neighbor in Chelsea in London, and his neighbors are all upset because, you know, the trend in London right now, have you heard about this, Julia? The trend in London, since you can't really build up and you can't build out, so everybody's digging these mammoth basements under their fancy mansions, their homes, for theaters and spas and God knows what else. He's apparently upset his neighbors because he's got one of these massive underground construction projects going under his house. Why don't you call him up and find all that out for us, Margherita? That would be great.
You know, they do that the same in Engadina and St. Moritz.
Oh,
because they are very, very severe rule to go up. So they make big hole in the ground.
Which in glacial moraine is pretty easy to do. No, seriously, several underground stories on a fancy home in Suvretta right next to St. Moritz is more or less the standard now, because there are limits on how high you can go, and you have neighbors, you can't go sideways very far.
Indeed.
Interesting.
Well, find out. That'd be great.
By the way, the heating systems are geothermal now.
Well, that brings us to America's Cup. Here's my last slide, America's Cup Future. Margherita, you've told us your plan. And I'm not going to go through it now, but I did a plan here
2 months ago.
A couple months ago. Julia's right. It was show number 876. So it was on October 21st of October. So not even a month ago. It was just a little less than a month ago. And that plan, a simple plan to rescue the cup. And I'm, again, without going through it, it's simply to say back to the future. Go back to the way New York ran it, the way Royal Perth ran it, the way even we ran it in San Diego, John, as you'll remember, which is simply to say, I'll paraphrase it, but to say that the defender runs the event in their hometown. Full stop. That's the way it's been. That's the way it should be. Putting the venue, as you said, Margherita, out to auction, out to bid has created a lot of problems. And put the venue back in the hometown. Then the challenger of record, whoever the challenger of record is, goes to that town, finds a yacht club. As who was the challenger of record? It was in Newport in '83. Was the Italians, right?
No, in '83 were not. The Italians were in Fremantle.
Oh, that's right. In '87, they were. Who was the challenger of record in '83? Do you remember?
Was one of the the other one Australia? I don't remember.
I don't remember.
We have to ask Bruno. You have to call in the transmission Bruno. That is the most
Troublé.
Bruno Troublé's most historical mind in the America's Cup.
Well, fair enough. And of course, he created the Challenger Selection Series, the Louis Vuitton Cup in '83 in Newport. But the point is, the Challenger record would go to a local yacht club like Ida Lewis or like one of the other clubs, and they would get that club to get their volunteer race committee together and run the Challenger Selection Series at the cost of fuel and maybe some other infrastructure for the boats, but it was basically a volunteer operation, very well done. You didn't have a full-time commercial, professional, unified race committee, which gets very expensive indeed.
Especially if it's going to last 4 years.
Well, especially. So that's what you do. And then the next point is the defender runs the match. The challengers run the challenger selection series with their race committee. They get together, have a joint television if they can agree to it. And if they can't, they each have their own television programs, which has been done before, no problem. And you've got an event that costs next to nothing in the hometown of the defender.
Exactly.
And the boat is almost, everybody likes to talk about the boat, John, and the boat's important, but it's not important so much to the sailors. The sailors and the designers, as you represent better than anybody, John, can figure out how to design cool boats and how to do something that's fun for the designers and sailors. It's really a marketing issue, Margherita, as you keep saying, something that keeps the television audience and the spectators and everyone else involved and interested, because they can say, oh yeah, sales going up and down, I relate to that.
Yeah.
Crew doing all or most of the work on the boat, not batteries and not push buttons, as you said. So, John, they should grab you right now, and you go grab John Longley and the others that put together the IACC. I wrote it out on paper because that's what I'm good at. And you guys came up with the IACC boat, and Ken McAlpine said, maybe that's not so good, maybe. And it all worked beautifully for 100 boats. Now you got to go back and do this turbo 80-footer, box rule 80 equivalent. So that's what everybody says the next America's Cup boat should really be.
Tom, I have a lot of friends, maybe not quite as old as I am, but long-standing members of the sport, participants, and spectators. And they're pretty much uniformly disappointed with the present platform and with the increasing disregard for the fact that the deed of gift actually is an irrevocable trust instrument from a man who's dead. So the push to commercialize in the sense of making this something that yacht owners can invest in and make money on is entirely different sort of commercialism from going out and getting sponsors to help a campaign.
Well
to
said.
me, the great failing of the Cup right now, and I don't have an answer or any answers, is that the yacht clubs no longer want to take responsibility as trustees. So you have clubs like Royal Perth, like San Diego, like New York Yacht Club, who did very, very good jobs protecting the tradition, protecting the ethics of the Cup, and put on stellar regattas. Now, the event itself is being sold, auctioned, as Margherita would say, around the world. There are no clubs willing to put significant money and effort into trusteeship. But no clubs that I can see, even the club that I'm close to here in Newport and have belonged to for a long, long time, really says, look, to protect this old testament, this old trust document, we've got to be prepared to go to court and defend it, and that's going to cost millions. How's that for our membership? We've got 3,000 members out there, of whom 300 maybe care about it, and 30 of them actually care about the ethics of it. I don't see how we're going to solve that problem.
Bravo Zulu, and I'm going to get somebody to take and do a clip of, with your permission, John, of just what you just said, because you've articulated that as well or better than, wouldn't you agree, Julia?
Absolutely.
Than anybody has articulated. We've been gasbagging and flapping our jaws here for months, years about exactly that concept, John. I think, Margherita, you agree with John, I suppose.
Yes, I agree with John. But, since I'm more PR person and politics, I say that you can save the cup, put it back, and give to Dalton another cup they can auction how he wants.
Well,
That's a pragmatic solution, and maybe it is the solution. This is not even a discussion about the boats themselves. I make a comment on that the America's Cup, a great strength of the America's Cup for a long, long time, is that the boats have been representative of a top level of international sailing. That goes back to the schooners of the 1870s, to the so-called big boats, ultimately Reliance, because in England they were designing and building boats of the same dimensions, same capabilities. 12 meters, absolutely, from the 1930s right through early 80s or 87, a class everybody could relate and understand to. If you were a junior sailor in Indian Harbor Yacht Club on Long Island Sound, you would see the 12s once in a while and say, wow, someday I'd like to do that, because they were part of the sport. The step to say that the America's Cup is a technology exercise and that the technology should be above and beyond the state of the sport is a huge mistake. You leave behind everyone who is a yachtsman, a dinghy sailor, a sailor, and they're looking at some kind of a space machine and saying, I could never do that.
exactly right.
So there's this huge disconnect between what's going on and what the people in this actually in the sport would like to see and would potentially participate in, support financially, support emotionally, support at their yacht clubs to pick up the responsibility for doing a good job. It'll never happen if the boats are irrelevant to the sport.
Quite exactly right. 100%, 1,000%. In fact, Bill Wingrove is saying 1,000% what John just said on the technological disconnect. And we even, to a degree, have that with the Olympic classes, that we don't see the Olympic classes being sailed around in our clubs anymore, and people are somewhat disconnected, other than the ILCA, other than the laser. But, gang, thank you very much. We kept you on here longer than we thought, but it's been fabulous and interesting, and I should let you go now. It's now, 6 o'clock, 6:08 in Newport. Probably time to have a cocktail and dinner. But I cannot thank you enough, both of you, for coming on. It's been just a fabulous segment on the past, present, and future even of the America's Cup. When can we get you on again?
Yes.
When we know what is the future, they have to change the protocol in any case, because they have to change the word from budget cup to the other. So soon we will have a new protocol. So when we have the new protocol, we will discuss again.
Okay.
And don't forget the partnership agreement.
Well, that thing is.
That's all tied in, because it's an inherent part of the protocol. And what it's doing is it's tying the hands of potential future competitors to play a game defined by other people. That's not the America's Cup. The America's Cup gives the challenger under the deed always the right to have a challenge and be guaranteed that that challenge will be met. This is really extracurricular
to the deed.
And I once said it's a violation of the cup, and a very, very good attorney said to me, no, it's not a violation. It's just simply inconsistent.
Well said. Thank you very much indeed. And Margherita, if you get any more one heres anytime soon.
Ah, yes.
Julia,
Yes, absolutely.
what do you think?
Once a day. Once a day.
Once a day. Okay. An incredible and insightful couple, Peter Reckenberg is saying. Thank you, Peter, for that.
Yes.
Thanks to everybody else. Julia, nice segment, wasn't it?
Absolutely.
Great to have you both on.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see you again sometime soon, hopefully sooner than later. By the way, I'm coming out I'm your way. I'm coming east for the Vice Commodore's induction on
New York, the 11th?
on the 11th of December. Will you be there?
We are thinking.
It's an
Can be.
historic moment for the
I think the
sport.
probable answer is the lady would like to go to New York that evening, and I will say, yes, ma'am.
Good. Hope to see you then.
In fact, we have a family expression that deals with that. When Margherita makes a declaration, you say, si capo.
Si capo. Okay. She's the deed of gift, it sounds like, there on Ruggles Street.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thanks very much.
Ciao, ciao.
Thank you,
Ciao,
Tom.
ciao. We'll see you soon. Ciao, ciao. Ciao
Yeah.
for now.
And Julia, thank you.
Thank you,
thank you.
Julia.
Oh, I'm so glad to have gotten to know you. Thank you very much.
Okay, great.
Looks like it all worked. I'm overwhelmed.
It'll work. Thank you very much. Okay, so that's our segment with Margherita and John Marshall here in show 883. We're 2 hours and 12 minutes into the show, but I want to cover a couple more things, Julia. Are you okay to carry on here?
Absolutely.
Because we got John Emmett's, his report, which I've held off here now to the end of to the C block, of the ostensible C block, because of what he did for us on Tuesday with that great segment with Jazzy Turner. So let's get to his report. It's about 9 minutes long, and we'll do that, and then we'll wrap up the show. John Emmett, the Coaching Corner.
Hi, Tom, Julia, and all the FOSI. First of all, a little apology for the live show we did the other day. I couldn't get my camera working, so Tom's always giving me lots of praise about how good I am with technology. You know the problem? HDMI cable wasn't properly plugged in. But some people may think it was a bonus not to see me so clearly. At least the audio was working, but very frustrating to have nice microphones and cameras, and technology doesn't always play the game. And one of the top tips I've had is just to try and test everything, and it just shows what amazing show Tom puts together. But it was even more amazing, obviously, because of the wonderful jazz. And I would just say, if you haven't seen the full interview we did in Ireland, please check it out, because I think one of the things we can help with the most with Para is to raise the profile. So the way the awards work, it's always very difficult because you're comparing apples with oranges with very different types of achievements. But when I look at Danny's award, which was a team award, the profile of different teams is hugely different. So you've got a selection, so to speak, but you've also got public voting. So again, I should probably fact check this, but if you look at Emirate Team New Zealand, you have over 100,000 followers on Instagram. If you look at Danny's account, it's around 3. So of course, a lot more people are aware of America's Cup teams and so on and so forth. So when it comes down to a public vote, it's very much about awareness. And that's why I think it's so important to raise awareness. And, you know, jazz is just an absolute force of nature, and it's these heroes we need to celebrate. But for me, Para is just one part of it. But the reason it's so close to home is I just like people to imagine themselves in somebody else's shoes and to have that empathy. So my father died of motor neurone disease, so those progressive diseases are very close to my heart. In fact, my last words to my dad were, "I love you very much. I just need to go and help the little Chinese girl now." And it's strange because Lily's quite a lot taller than me, as everybody seems to be pointing out. I'm not sure if I'm getting shorter or not, but there we go. And then obviously the accident that happened to Danny, you know, that could happen to any of us at any time where, you know, unexpected things happen. I had it actually the day of the show, the 11th of 11th, which is meant to be a good omen day. I walked along and a £10 note flew into my hand, which was completely unexpected. And I really, to this day, have no idea where it came from. But things can happen. And just, you know, you think about that one explosion and then your life in total dark. So 2 very different stories, but 2 very strong characters, and we should do our best to promote them. So now going to probably go back more to the grassroots topic. We've only got a few weeks left in the year, but for me, inclusion in no particular order is three things. So we've got the para, and for me, the reason for that is just, everybody should be able to get on the water who wants to. Some need more assistance than the others, but the enjoyment is just, you cannot imagine how much pleasure it can bring to some people. The thing I liked in Chesil Sailability, I said this on the show, that they've got a really good sense of humour, but a lot of the wheelchair users and they describe themselves as penguins, so not very gainly on land, but as soon as they're in the water, they were off, and just amazing projects to be involved with. And Hannah Stodel does a fantastic job. In fact, sometimes I forget that she's a parasailer herself at all the specific tasks that actually having two hands would be a real advantage in, because people just get on with it. And the thing I noticed with my dad when he was given the 6 months to live, it really focuses people's mind about what they want to do when they know they have a limited time left. So parasailing, we can't forget about it, but for now let's move on to look at the other two types. And again, no particular order, but women's sailing is also very important, because I think I've got this right, actually more than 50% of the world is female, but yet as we go through the various stages of sailing, the representation gets less and less. So I think Australia had more than 50% girls in relation to boys at Optimist and Ilka 4 level, whereas by the time we get to elite level, there's a large underrepresentation, and at masters level, the number of women is a very small percentage. And I think what we need to do is encourage a little group. So in the UK, I think maybe we can do something with the Ilka 4s to get women sailing the boat, which is the appropriate size for them, so they can have lots of fun, whether it's 4 knots, 40 knots or 24 knots. But we do need to look after what is literally half of the population. And this segues nicely onto the final point, which youth sailing. Youths are the definition of our sport. So without being melodramatic, I think, not a lot of us are going to be around in about 50, 60 years, but the people who are starting Optimist sailing now will be, and they will be the Commodores and Vice Commodores and Rear Commodores of the club. And one of the pieces of research that has come out is that the main inspiration or role model or driving force for child's fitness is often depending on the mother. So if the mother sails, it's far more likely the children are going to engage. The two are very related. Now, it comes quite controversial because the sport is gradually going through change. I mean, foiling didn't start in 2013. It started a long time ago if you look back, but actually we've got a bit of a transition now, and you look at classes like the Switch, which almost appear to come from nowhere and are doing a really good job promoting themselves. And I would say there's sailing out there for everybody. In fact, there's so much more crossover than I think a lot of people realise. But just to get young people on the water, and just super keen for them to come down. So, for example, with Castle Cove cadets on a Saturday, and they really want to take the cover off and go sailing, even in January in the British weather. That is the goal. When I'm sort of fighting at committee level, so that when, for example, there's an open meeting, the cadets don't lose a single weekend of sailing. So those are the three parts of being inclusive. I hope the questions got answered in the last show. I mean, it's very important that we have inclusive rather than just parasailing to look after people like Jazz and the way it works in terms of the capitalisation. But yeah, I'm really happy to answer any questions, and I will, separate from the show, put out more reels to try and explain how equipment works, how events work, how the process works, and what we need to be focusing on now. But I think you know the drill. If you really enjoy content, just try and promote it by dropping comments. And I'm really welcome if people disagree. I mean, I know a lot of people would like to see the fin back in or the star back in or whatever. Really good to have that open discussion, the reason why things are the way they are. give us a like and share the content so other people can see it, because that's one of the key things. Because I don't actually see us really in competition with ourselves, whether that's clubs or M&As or classes. Sailing as a sport as a whole, we're very much, especially in terms of Olympics and Paralympics, in competition with other sports, but even other activities, because it's increasingly easy to chill, Netflix and order takeaway food, when actually that Wednesday evening race would be far more fun, in my humble opinion. And, you know, for me, often it's a rush to make the race. And that was one of the things that worried me about the Portland generator, not just the air pollution, but the amount of traffic we could get in Weymouth and Portland, having, you know, 6 huge trucks an hour clogging up what's effectively a 1-lane road. And it's already pretty tight timing sometimes to finish a coaching session and get to my club race, because I would like to have evening racings in September and start 15 minutes earlier, but it's getting closer and closer to missing the start of the race. So I think, you know, we just want to drive sailing in all its forms, and by promoting one part of the sport, you're not in any way depromoting, I don't know what the word is, another part of the sport. But we do need to think very carefully where we focus our energies, because at the moment, some parts of the sport are very underrepresented. So on that note, sail fast, sail safe, and hopefully see you on the show.
He was on the show. I saw a comment or two from him, from John. Thanks, John. Thank you for that. As always, that's the Coaching Corner with John Emmett, sailing set, get to the front of the fleet. And we always like to say at the end of his segment, we're continuing to push hard for Brisbane 2032, pushing to get Paralympic sailing back into the Paralympics, at least as a demonstration event in Brisbane. And we've been pushing that basically all year since our January show. And I'm pleased to report that the Australians are continuing to make progress, continuing to build interest and support. And look at this, because they just had a clinic in Sydney. I don't need to say any more than that. Watch this short video.
So I've just gotten off the water. I've been out there watching para wing. So we're here in Sydney, and it's the first time that Australian Sailing have hosted a para wing clinic. Now, we all know how cool wing foiling is, but I was out there watching them. They learned to tow foil, and then they use the wings today. So it's really cool to see. The ultimate goal is obviously to get Paralympic sailing back to Brisbane 2032. So it all starts here.
Haven't been in the Paralympics since Rio in 2016, and the sailors have really missed it. But it's a shame not to have the pinnacle of the sport being the Paralympics. So it would be fantastic to get sailing back. It's created a lot of interest already in Australia, and we've had athletes from a lot of different sports being involved. Great to see so many people wanting to give it a go.
Nice, eh?
Yep.
Dolly DeVola sent that video to me. Thank you very much, Dolly. Nice to have, and congratulations to the Aussies. And everything we can do to keep pushing that, we will, we shall. Now, I'm going to do this day in history because it's not evergreen. It talks about today. And then we'll cut to the quick. I'm going to push off Alistair Murray's AAAA, which is evergreen, push that off to Tuesday's show. Mm-hmm. And likewise, the last leg, that's also evergreen. It's about Sail GP, and we'll do that on Tuesday. But in the meantime, thanks again to John and Margherita.
Yes.
Julia, what happened on this day in history? 1851. The 14th of November. And you might think it's cup related.
Might. Yes.
But it's not. Here's your first clue. David James, he's been checking up on me. Herman Melville started boring teenagers. That is, of course, Herman Melville, the American author, lived from 1819 to 1891. And notably, much of Melville's oeuvre, how do you say that in French?
Yeah, oeuvre.
Genre revolves around the sea, and Melville himself was a sailor, first on a merchant ship, then on a whaler. He jumped ship in the summer of 1842 while in the Marquesas in French Polynesia, and spent a while in the area, with his friend Richard Tobias Green, who jumped ship with him. What are they trying to imply with that comment? His book, Typee, was based upon his experiences during this time, but what was it that happened on this day in 1851? Well, his most famous novel was published. Both jaws, like enormous shears. This is one of the illustrations in that. Bit the craft completely in twain.
Uh-huh.
And that's the Wikipedia about that book that was published on this day in history in 1851. AC0, published
Yes.
by Harper and Brothers in New York City on this day in history, 14 November, 1851, Julia.
Well, that's good to know.
Now, I've got as I said, I got an AAAA, but I think we'll push that off with your permission.
As long as we see it next week.
We'll see it on Tuesday. It's a good one because it's Alistair with his granddaughter and some other really nice people. A great video. I just give you a tease here. The first Vic Sea Scouts and other kids, and that is on the lake in Melbourne at Albert Park. It's the Albert Park Lake where I've been there for Formula One, of course, but it's a great segment, Julia, and I think we'll save that along with Alistair's video until Tuesday because we are almost 2.5 hours in. Likewise, the final leg, which is about Sail GP, and of course that's coming up in a couple weeks' time. They're going to be in Abu Dhabi the 29th and 30th, so we got a couple more weeks to talk about that, but there's some cool videos coming out.
Good.
And maybe Margherita will do some one-heres as checking up on some of those sailors.
She's very good at that.
See what happens in the meantime, Julia. That is in Abu Dhabi, of course, at the end of this month. And your favorite sailor is almost in the hunt, Julia.
Wouldn't that be wonderful?
Almost. I have a nice video, but we'll do that again on Tuesday. In the meantime, we want to do the last little segment here, Julia, your favorite segment, your favorite gentleman, Whiskey Tango Foxtrot.
Yes.
And this came in from Daniel Forster.
No kidding.
Daniel Forster, and this is an important thing to know. It is the Three Cheeses on, we could still taste it, from CNN Travel. Swiss Gruyere crowned the world's best cheese. I kid you not. And I have, of course, a short video.
Mm-hmm.
World Cheese Champion 2025.
Perfect and unforgettable. Those were the words from one of the judges about this 18-month Swiss Gruyere. It picked up the award for World Cheese Champion 2025.
It is a great honor, and I am simply very moved.
265 judges tasted more than 5,000 cheeses from all over the world. The top 14 included cheeses from Japan, Slovakia, the USA, and the Netherlands, as well as 3 British entries. But what do judges look for when they have so many different varieties?
First of all, we're looking at visual appearance of the cheese, so how it looks like from the inside and outside. Then what I'm actually looking, the second step is a nose, so all the aromas that the cheese is actually giving us. And then the thirdly, of course, the flavors, you know.
This was the first time that the competition created by the British Guild of Fine Food in 1988 had been held in Switzerland. The next edition of the contest will be held in Cordoba, Spain.
So I couldn't help. Daniel Forster sent that in, so thank you very much, Daniel. And of course, he's Swiss originally. And these judges go around and taste, and there's a lot of them, and they taste all like 200 and some odd cheeses.
Incredible.
I couldn't taste 3 or 4 without. I love cheese too.
Yes.
Are you a fan of cheese?
Yes.
So that's a cheesy segment. Julia, this one's dedicated to you.
Mom, do you know why I pulled you over?
No, officer, I was going exactly 22 miles per hour.
Mom, that's not the speed limit. That's the route number.
Oh, my goodness, I thought I was being so careful.
Well, just make sure to keep up with the speed limit, all right?
Thank you, officer.
By the way, is everyone in the car okay?
They'll be fine in a minute. We just got off Route 119.
We just got off Route 119. So she thought the route number was the speed limit. I thought we'd dedicate that to you. the heavy footed driver that Julia was back in the day. And finally, Clayt Embley sent this in. We're not going to call him Clayt Emily anymore, but the leading cause of injury in old men is them still thinking they're young men and trying to go sailing with a drink in their hands.
Yes.
And of course, all the smartest people sail. Blake Middleton reminds us of that at the finish line in every show. Julia, you like to say,
yes, don't miss sharing and liking and following this.
indeed. Look at all the chat about people having to read Moby Dick. You know, I thought, seriously, when I first heard about Moby Dick, I thought it was a venereal disease.
Oh, come on.
They're all talking about reading in grades in junior high school. In fact, J. Frederick Bland, when he was a plebe at our Naval Academy, he said he had to read it there. Good Lord.
Mm-hmm.
Follow, like, share in whatever order, and also comments are welcome, even in replay. Thank you very much for those of you who support us via Patreon, patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated. We are viewer-supported media and would not have equipment, would not be able to pay our stream. Oh, I got another streaming bill today, Julia. Got to pay it, or else we won't be able to be on the air next week for our show number 884. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for supporting us, and thank you to everybody who gave us audio, video, and images for today's show. Julia, final thoughts?
I think I still end up with the same thing. I always wonder at the depth and breadth of our sport.
And the smart people that are in the chat from all over the place. It's nice to see new people coming on as well. John K.M. Henry, the nephew, I believe he's John's sister's son. Great show, though I am biased. Thank you, John. And Bill Wingrove thinks I deserve a finger wag, Julia, for that comment about, but let's not do that. Let's just wrap this one up with a reminder that K-Art's coming on next Friday, the 21st, for part 2 of his podcast, Us Interrupt Us. And then the following Tuesday, the 25th, our Thanksgiving week, T. Hutch will be on. Terry, and we're looking forward to both of them. Have a great weekend wherever in the world you are. We hope to see you on Tuesday, same time, same channel. In the meantime, sail fast, sail safe, and have fun. Ciao. For now. It's a good one. That was a good one.